afternoon. My name is Coach Robinson, and this is the 7th grade mathematical course. Today's lesson will be fractions and decimals. What we're going to do is we're going to identify what a fraction is and then convert those fractions into decimals, all right? So now first and foremost, let's define a fraction. A fraction is a number that represents a part of a whole number. There are two components of a fraction. You have the numerator and the denominator. So you would express this like this. An improper fraction would be the opposite. So let's imagine if this was b over a. This would be an improper fraction. If I was to translate this into numbers, I'll write it down here. A over b will be 1 over 2, and then b over a will be 2 over 1. Okay? So I'm gonna tell you what a numerator and a denominator is. A numerator represents the number of equal parts of a whole, and a denominator is the total number of parts of the whole. Okay? So now let's get an example. Okay, let's take the number 1 and put it over 1, okay? We know that this equals 1, right? Because we can divide 1 by 1 and get 1, okay? So now let's make the numerator 1 and the denominator 2. Now, what does that equal? Well, most of us know 1/2 is 0.5. But how can you actually write this if you didn't have a calculator, or if you didn't know that 1/2 equals 0.5? That's the purpose of this lesson. I'm gonna show you how to do that. So what you wanna do is you wanna write 1 over 2 in a division form, okay? So you wanna make your denominator your divisor and your numerator the dividend, okay? You can't divide 2 into 1, right? So since I can't divide 2 into 1, I have to add a 0 here. And when I add a 0 here, a decimal comes here, and a decimal goes there, and then I add a 0 here. 2 can be divided into 10 5 times. So 2 times 0.5 is 1.0. That equals 0. So this is how we know that 1/2 equals 0.5, but this isn't expressed as a percentage. So it's 2 ways you can do it. You could either times this by 100, and that'll give you 50.00%, or you could just simply take the 0.5 and just move the decimal 2 spaces over, 1, 2, and add it here, and then your new number would be 5.00. Okay? Okay, so now we'll do another example with 1/3. Now, we know, most of us know, that 1/3 is equal to 33.33, and it kind of extends forever. The forever, it kind of just goes forever. So I'm gonna show you how to write this down if you didn't know that 1/3 equals 33.3, right? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the same thing we did with 1/2. Take our divisor, which is the denominator, and divide it by the numerator, okay, which is the dividend. 3 cannot go into 1, okay? So that's where our 0 comes in at. And anytime you put a 0 up here, you want to put a decimal here, you're going to bring a decimal down here, and you want to add a 0 here. So now 3 times 3 is 9. 9 is the closest you can get to 10 without going over. So we want to add our 3 here, right? So that'll give us 0.9 minus that. 1.0 minus 0.9 is 0.1. Then you would have to add a 0 to drop. So now you have the same problem, essentially. 3 goes into 10. 3 times 3 is 9. This is minus. So 10 minus 9 is 1. Add another 0. Gotta come down here. And again, 3 can go into 10 3 times. So pretty much like this is why it's continuous. Like you'll just be doing the same problem all over again because it's like a never ending problem. Alright, so that's why. So if I want to turn this in to a percentage, I would either move this 1 or 2 decimal places, or I can times it by 100 and do the same thing and get 33.33%. So now let's try 1/4, okay? Most of us are able to identify with 4 quarters being $1, right? So if I had one of those 4 quarters, that equals 25%. So 1/4 is 0.25, okay? Now, if you didn't notice, how can I divide and actually get this as an answer if I asked you the question? So this is how we go about doing it. So again, we'll take the denominator as our divisor and we'll divide it into the numerator, which is the dividend, okay? 4 cannot go into 1, so that is our 0. Okay, anytime you put a 0 up here, you put a decimal, you drop the decimal down, and then you put the 0 here as well. All right? 4 can go into 10 2 times, because 4 times 2 is 8. So your 8 will be here. Okay, this will turn into 0.2, and then you will add a 0 here because you can't just finish the problem like that. So now we know 4 goes into 20 5 times. 0.20, 0. All right. So now let's try 1/5. Okay. Most of us are able to identify that 1/5 is 20%, right? But if you didn't know that and you wanted to express that, okay, that is 0.20, and if you wanted to do it by hand, all you have to do is divide the denominator by the numerator. So that's your 5 divided by 1. Okay, you know you cannot divide 5 by 1, so therefore 0 goes at the top of the quotient first. You put your decimal here, drop your decimal down, and add a 0. Okay, and we know 5 goes into 10 2 times. Right, so that's your problem. Okay, and if I wanted to turn this into a percentage, I could just move this decimal place 2 times or times it by 100, and it'll do the same thing, so that'll give me 20%. So now let's do another one. Let's do 2/9, right? Off the top of my head, I don't know this percentage, but if I wanted to figure this out, all I would have to do is follow the steps. Divide the denominator into the numerator, right? So I don't know what it equals yet, so we're gonna do it together. So 9 divided by 2, 9 cannot go into 2. So therefore, you add a 0 here. Anytime you put a 0, you place your decimal, you drop your decimal down, you add a 0 in the dividend area, right? So now, how many times can 9 go into 20? We know 9 times 2 is 18. So put your 2 up here. This will give us 0.18. Okay, that'll give us our 0.2. So now 9 goes into 20 again, 2 times. Excuse me, that's supposed to be 18. 18. Okay, and then that'll give us again 0.2 again. Add a 0. Okay, drop this down. And again, 9 goes into 20 2 times. So y'all get the point. It'll be a repeating decimal, right? So it was 0.2 again, same thing. So this is a repeating decimal, right? So if I wanted to turn this into a percentage, and pretty much a repeating decimal means that this next number would be 2 anyway, right? So again, if I wanted to turn this decimal into a percentage, I will actually move the decimal place over 1, 2 times, or times it by 100, and that'll do the same thing, and the percentage will be 22.22%. Now we're gonna do 1 over 25. I don't know this percentage off the top of my head, but if we follow the basic principles of dividing the denominator into the numerator, I should be able to find out what the answer is, right? So let's do it. 25 divided by 1. 25 cannot go into 1. So therefore, the 0 comes here, decimal here, drop your decimal down, add your 0. 25 cannot go into 10 either. So another 0 comes, and then you drop the 0 down here. And 25 goes into 100 4 times. That's your answer. So the answer, 1 over 25 is equal to 0.04 thousandths, hundredths. And if I wanted to turn this into a percentage, again, I will move this 2 spaces, 1, 2, and that will be 4%. And I could just times it by 100 and get 4%. Now, I'm gonna do a fraction with a mixed number, okay? Now, when you wanna turn this into a percentage, right? What you wanna do is you wanna isolate the whole number. So when you convert this into a percentage, you wanna just write 2 by itself and then put your decimal here, right? So now all you have to do is figure out this portion here, which is 9 over 10. Now, let's do the math. If we didn't know that 9 over 10 is 90%, we'll do the math. So 10 divided by 9, okay? 10 cannot go into 9, so you gotta add a 0, decimal, add a 0 here. 10 going to 90, 9 times. So if I wanted to turn 0.9 into a percentage, I would just move the decimal 2 times, 1, 2. So this would turn out to be 90.90%. No, excuse me. And I could do the same thing by simply timesing 0.9 by 100. It will give me the same answer, 90%. That concludes the 7th grade mathematical course. The next lesson will be on improper fractions and how to convert mixed numbers into improper fractions and improper fractions into mixed numbers. Okay, so y'all stay tuned. Thank you. If you have any questions, if you would like a worksheet, any assistance of any type of magnitude, just let me know. You can email me, unityservice216@gmail.com, and follow the Instagram at unitytutors216. So thank you. Y'all have a good evening.